Christian Schulz is Chief European Economist at Citi. Great to see you, Christian. Now, as we were hearing there from our correspondent, well, it's been a good day for French assets, as investors seem to be buying into France after that first round. Are they celebrating too soon?
Well, I think they're returning a little bit. Clearly, we haven't made up for all the losses of the last 3 weeks yet. It's just the first step. And I think the main driver is that, as your colleague was saying, it could have been worse. Many in the markets had at least feared of a tail risk that the far left would end up with a majority or a chance on a majority, and that seems to not be the case. So we're now down to two scenarios: one that the far right wins the election and runs the country, more or less, and the other is that we end up with some form of stalemate in Parliament and no real French policy direction from here on onwards.
Well, looking at those two scenarios then, what might those mean for the French economy and then more broadly for the EU?
For the French economy, I guess you have to really look into the program of the far right, of the Rassemblement National. The program that we had in 2022 was quite far-reaching. At some point, estimates were that it would cost around 100 billion per year to implement all the tax cuts and spending increases that they had planned. They've reduced that to some degree. They're focusing on just two measures. One is a cut in VAT on energy, so making energy cheaper, which is clearly something that people want and probably voted for. And the other is an exemption on social security contributions for companies that raise the wage bill by 10%. So higher wages or more employment is what this measure is targeting. So these are two measures which are costly and are going to drive the already very high French deficit even higher and debt higher, and that may lead to some concern, but it's not revolutionary. I think the main concern, and that's I think what you're alluding to, is France's role in Europe. The far right has been critical, and that is something that people clearly are concerned about.
You did mention French debt. I mean, it's 112% of GDP, the highest in the developing world after Japan and US, which have much larger economies. The credit rating in France has been downgraded twice, I believe, in the last 6 months. So what impact do you think these election results are going to have on France's debt crisis and economic outlook?
In terms of debt, the only way is up, right? The deficits are going to stay high, the debt level is going to continue rising, and that is going to potentially put pressure on these credit ratings. And again, that is one of the concerns that people have. At the same time, the French governments in the past have got away with rising debt ratios for a long time, unlike, for example, their neighbors in Spain or in Italy who've had a crisis, or even the UK just 2 years ago under Liz Truss had a bond market crisis. That could be the risk here, that people or French politicians are underestimating how much concern there is in markets, and that there could be a backlash in the markets that then triggers also an economic crisis. But for the time being, that's certainly not our base case, and you can see with the market reaction that also the market isn't really playing that card just yet. There's a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for the French far right that they may go down the route of the Italian government under Giorgia Meloni, which seems to be running the country fairly well at the moment.
Christian Schulz, pleasure seeing you again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.